Hello and what's up guys, Medium Guy here and welcome to the next video in the video series dedicated to Caddy. And in this video we're going to learn how to handle errors and respond accordingly based on the error's stats code. So without any delay, let's get down to work. So as you can see in the official documentations right over here, we can use the handle underline errors in order to define the method that the Caddy will try to respond to the errors, like for example the 403 errors, 404 not found errors, and 500 server errors. So basically using this directive, we can respond with some static HTML. Also, we can respond with a static JSON or any other content that we statically want to respond to the error pages. So with having this in mind, let's move to the configuration files to see how we can implement this in action. So if I move to the VS Code right over here, you can see that under the custom error pages directory in my GitHub repository, I've prepared some configuration files in order to demonstrate how all this concept will work, and for which you can find the relevant link to the GitHub repository in the description section of this video. So no worries about codes and configurations. Let's move into the work directly. So right over here you can see that I've got a Docker Compose file, and inside this I've got two services. One is a backend server, which is actually an echo server that will dynamically respond with the details of whatever request that it receives. So we'll be using this as a backend upstream server for the Caddy in order to make requests and receive responses. So if I move down right over here, you can see that I've got my Caddy service also, which I'm using the Caddy official image with some recent tags, and I've set the restored policy to make the Docker engine to try to restore this container for whatever reason that it might get stopped or stuck or any other stuff like that. So right over here on the environment variable section, I'm passing the time zone in order to set the time zone of the container that will be created that will eventually have my Caddy server inside itself. So right over here on the port section, you can see that I'm mapping port 80 and 443 to exact same ports inside the container. So as a result, I'll be able to make requests to these exact ports using my host machine's IP address to actually communicate with the Caddy server running inside this container. And right over here on the volume section, I'm passing the ./Caddyfile, which we'll see in a moment, to the /etc/caddy/Caddyfile, which is the default file that the Caddy server coming up inside the container will try to configure itself with. And over here I have the ./data and ./config mapped to /data and /config inside the container. And actually these are the two directories that you'd want to persist, because the Caddy will use these directories to store its data and any configurations that it will be creating on the process. And lastly, right over here, I've got the ./HTML directory mapped to /HTML inside the container. And actually, I'll put all my static HTML files inside this directory, and later I'll be using in the Caddyfile to serve these HTML files back to the client as my error pages, responding to some exact errors. So next, moving to the Caddyfile, you can see that in the global section, I am actually turning off the automatic redirect to HTTPS. So as a result, I'll be able to also make requests using the HTTP protocol also. And right over here, I'm defining the Caddy to listen to exact same ports that I've mapped to outside the container in the Docker Compose file. So by using the root directive, I am telling the Caddy in which directory to look for the HTML files. And right over here, using the handle errors directive, and by passing the stats code, I'm actually able to configure the Caddy server to respond based on my desired configuration. So actually I'm rewriting whatever request to /404.html, and by using the file server directive, I am actually able to serve that 404.html file that exists on the /HTML inside the container. So doing the same for 500 errors, and by defining 5xx, I can actually match all the errors starting from 500 to 599. And also inside the /html directory, I have the exact same file that I want to rewrite and respond with that exact file. And lastly, right over here, again using the handle errors directive, I'm actually responding with a simple text to all other errors that will not match these two matchers. So moving down right over here, I'm actually responding with an error on the /private star with 403 unauthorized response, and for the /hidden star, which will mean whatever path that starts with /hidden and whatever comes after this path. Also, I'm responding with 404, which stands for not found error, just in order to demonstrate how all these handling errors will work. And lastly, over here, I have a handle to the /API, which is a simple reverse proxy to the backend service that we defined with the exact same name in the Docker Compose file. So because these two containers, I mean the Caddy and the Echo server, will be created using the same Docker Compose file, as a result, these two containers will be able to communicate with each other through their Docker Compose service names. So by saying backend right over here, this will eventually resolve to the exact IP of the Echo server, also running as a Docker container. So next, if I open this HTML directory, you can see that I've got two simple HTML files, each of them having their own related texts. So hopefully we'll be able to see that we can actually respond differently for different errors. So right now, if I move to the terminal right over here, I'll hit ls to make sure I'm in the exact same directory, and by saying docker compose op-d, as a result, as we can see, my two containers are created with a network attaching these two containers to this exact network. So by saying docker compose ps, I'll be able to see that both my containers are in op status with their exact same ports mapped to each of these containers. Also, if I say docker compose logs -f -tail 100 to grab the latest 100 lines of the output of these two containers, and as we can see, things are looking good, and actually right now we should be able to make requests to the Caddy server and see how the Caddy will respond to different errors. So I'll move to another terminal right over here. If I say curl -i to localhost on port 80 and to the hidden path, if I hit enter, you can see that the Caddy is responding with a 404 error with the exact same content of the 404.html file. Also, if I make another call to the /API, you can see that I'm receiving 200, which is okay, and I'm seeing the response that is received from the Echo server. So if I move right over here, I'll hit Ctrl+C to exit out of the logs, and if I say docker rm-f and remove the related container for the Echo server, I'll hit enter, and the Echo server container is now removed, and actually Caddy won't be able to reverse proxy to that, and as a result it will respond with errors. So again, right over here, I'll try to make another request to the exact same path, and if I hit enter right now, you can see that it is responding with 502, which is bad gateway, and as the content, you can see that it is the exact same content of the 500.html file. So because we passed 5xx, even for the 502 error, the Caddy server will try to respond with that exact same HTML file. So lastly, I'll try to make another request to the /private, and if I hit enter, you can see that I'm getting a 403 forbidden error, and actually Caddy is trying to respond with the exact same text that I defined for all other errors, if not matching the 404 or 500 errors. As you can see right over here in the Caddyfile, it is the exact same text. So using the exact same steps, you can actually define whatever logic, whatever configuration that you want Caddy to respond for different errors. Like for example, you can respond with some static JSON to some exact errors, also using the respond directive. So that's all for this video. I hope you'll learn something new in this one. If you have any questions, any recommendations, of course go ahead and ask me in the comment section down below. And also, if you haven't watched the previous videos in this video series dedicated to Caddy, you can find the relevant link down in the description section, in which you can learn things like load balancing and IP restrictions and bot detections and cool stuff like that. And lastly, if you found the video useful, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel, which will help grow the channel and motivate me to create more free contents like this. So with that, that's all for this video, and I hope to see you in the next videos.